Now, you might be asking yourself the question, why did he do that? Why did you do that? Why did he do that? It's a good question. It's a fair question. Well, for me, that was the best way I could think of to practically demonstrate to you rule number 1. Nail the intro. We get told time and time again about the importance of first impressions. But my question to you is, how much time have you really spent analysing and improving the first impressions that you deliver to your customers? Now, I like to think about first impressions the way I think about the intros to the best rock songs in the world. First impressions need to have 3 core elements, and they are impact, purpose, and direction. Impact. Does your first impression leave a lasting impression? Will your customers talk about it for days, for weeks, for months? Will they tell their friends or their family? Will they talk about it on social media? Purpose. Is your first impression specifically designed to make your customers feel a particular way? Mine was. I wanted you to feel intrigued and excited. And direction. Does your first impression set the tone for the rest of the experience, or better yet, the rest of the relationship together? The problem with first impressions is they don't actually happen where and when we think they do. They don't happen with the first interaction with our company. Today, our first impressions for potential customers can come from current customers' angry tweets, from blogs, from vlogs, from reviews. One customer's bad experience can quickly become thousands of potential customers' bad first impression. Now, you may have heard, I used to be an actual real-life, legitimate, award-winning rock star, but now I'm not. But when I was, it was kind of exactly the same. If we played a bad show, we would get a bad review in the magazines, and that would become thousands of potential fans' first impression of us. But the beauty of this is that the opposite is also true. If we played a good show, we would get a good review in the magazines, and that would become thousands of potential fans' first impression of us. The experience that you deliver controls the first impressions that are out of your control. Now, interestingly enough, my show on Amazon Prime is called This Week in CX, and it is the single highest rated and most watched customer experience show on Amazon Prime. Because it's the only one. No, seriously, if you type into Amazon Prime customer experience, this is what you get. This Week in CX and Secret Diary of a Call Girl. I mean, if we want to learn about customer experience, well. But the point of this is our first impressions don't always happen where and when we think they do. And people say to me, James, we've already delivered a lot of bad impressions, so what do? You can't come back from a bad first impression. You don't get a second chance at a first impression. You've heard that before, right? But let me tell you a little story that might help you think about that a little bit differently. So, I actually don't know if this story is true, but it was told to me, and I will now tell it to you because it helps me prove a point. So, there you go. So this was told to me by our tour manager called Falco, who was a German dude. And he was tour managing another band, and they were travelling from a gig that they played in Sweden the night before to a gig they had the next day in Finland. So they were travelling through the night on the tour bus, through the windy European roads that are lined by trees, and even though it was the dead of night, everyone on the bus was still awake. They were drinking, they were listening to music, they were having fun. Then all of a sudden, one of the guys at the front of the bus said, "Hey, everybody, come and look at this." So they all ran to the front of the bus and they looked out. In the distance, they saw a man throwing rocks at cars. They thought this was hilarious. They're like, "This guy is even more wasted than us." And they laughed until the bus got closer. The rock-throwing man bent down, picked up a bigger rock, and threw the rock and shattered the front window of the bus. So the bus screeched to a halt. Falco and the crew got out of the bus. They looked at the rock-throwing man. The rock-throwing man looked back at them. The rock-throwing man turned into the forest and ran. Now, as an aside, what do you think their first impression of this guy was at this point? I'll give you a clue. It wasn't very good. So Falco and the crew ran after the man. They ran through puddles and through streams. They ran past bushes and past trees until they stopped. And the reason they had stopped is because the rock-throwing man had stopped. The rock-throwing man had stopped and turned and was looking back at them. And what Falco saw made his blood run cold. Lying at the feet of the rock-throwing man was a woman, unconscious, covered in blood. The rock-throwing man said, well, he didn't say it in English because he was from Finland, so what, Finlandian? What's that? Finnish. But I've only just started. Hey! That is my best joke. It is all downhill from here. So he said, please. Me and my wife were out camping. We were walking, she tripped and she fell. She hit her head, she's bleeding really bad. I'm worried she might die. I've got no cell signal. I ran to the side of the road and I tried to wave down cars, but no one would stop. This was the only way I could think of to get help. Well, as the story goes, Falco and the crew got help, and they saved that woman's life. What's your opinion of the guy now? You can always come back from a bad first impression. So the way I think about it is like an album. So if you think of an album of an artist that you particularly like, yes, there is an overall first impression with the intro to the first song. But every new song has got a new intro. Every new song has a new chance at a first impression. Just like every single experience you deliver is a brand new chance to get that first impression right. So my recommendation here is spend some time figuring out where your first impressions actually happen and work to engineer in impact, purpose, and direction.